Good day, fellow investors. My name is Peter Mészáros, and my guest today is Dr. Andrew Tunks from Meteoric Resources. Now, I'm also a shareholder in this company, and I'm sure that many of you know about Meteoric and this astonishing Caldeira project in Brazil, but he's here to introduce this to us. Thank you for being here.
Peter, it's a pleasure, and hello to all your investors and all your listeners.
Oh, you are welcome. And I also have to mention, I'm sorry, I catch a bit of cold. I'm fighting, but I think it's not a big issue, and I'm not the star of today. So let's
Well,
yeah.
I can also apologize because I know that having traveled a lot in Europe, even people sometimes with good English struggle to understand my very strong Australian accent. So I hope they can get through that.
Yeah, sure. I love it. I love it. So let's jump in. I think we could start with a short introductory segment. As long as you wish, 5, 10, 15 minutes. And
Sure.
please introduce the company to us. And
Sure.
then I have maybe a few questions.
Sure. So I'm just going to share a screen and a presentation, and I'll walk you through the main elements of both the company, the history, the people, and the project. Peter, please feel free to interrupt me if I say something that obviously requires more explanation.
Thank you.
So just let me bring that up. Peter, I'm delighted to be able to introduce the company to you today. So let me just work through some important facts about the company. A very standard disclaimer, probably not really relevant for your people. Meteoric, the company, has been around for a long time, since about 2004. And sometimes people are always shocked by how many shares we have on issue. It's a bit of an ASX thing, but that reflects a long history of exploration. Since 2004, the company has explored for copper, gold, diamonds, cobalt, uranium, and then finally rare earths. I joined the company in 2018 as the managing director, and I've been here ever since. We initially started working in Canada when I joined. I quickly changed the company to focus in on Brazil, and we picked up some gold projects in Brazil, which we did quite well on those gold projects. And then we sold those to a private equity group in Brazil. And then we went out and this is how exploration works. We'd sold those, we had some money coming. And I said to the guys who work for me, well, we've got to go out and find another project. And because we were mainly gold guys, we were looking for gold projects, and we were looking in Africa and South America. And then I also said to my very good friend, Marcelo Carvalho, who's a director of the company as well, and he's a very fine geologist. And I said, look, I like rare earths, and we should look for a rare earth opportunity. And then within a week, he sent me this project. And this project had some work done on 2019. And there'd really been some very interesting work done. And it took me a little while to get my head around it, but I recognized that there was an opportunity for Meteoric. Meteoric was very small at that time. We had a market cap of only about $10 million, and there were only 3 people working at the company. But we saw this rare earth project, and I went to Brazil with my biggest shareholder and Marcelo, and we talked to the guys who own this project, and we convinced them that although we were a very small company, the way that the Australian stock market worked was it rewarded and does reward good exploration. And I was convinced that at this rare earth project, we could immediately go to work and create results that would see the company revalued very quickly and grow. And so we got the chance to do the deal. And obviously since then, we were a 1 cent stock at that stage with a market cap of $10 million. Now, these are Australian dollars. but we're a 1 cent stock. So anyone who owned that stock has already had a great run on the share market. And our market cap now is around $580 million. Just in terms of the people, and I'll mention some more people as we go, but although I was the managing director, it was very obvious to me that this was going to be a mine, and it was going to be a big mine. And so also I'm not really a rare earth expert. I'm a gold expert. My PhD is in gold geology. Same with Marcelo, actually. And so we decided to bring in some people because in a big mine, the challenges are not so much the mining sometimes, especially when you have the world's best ore body, but the challenges are about the finance and the government approvals and all of those sort of things, which I'm no, and really I'm a true geologist. I love the rocks. I don't always love the governments and environmental stuff. And so we brought in Mr. Stuart Gale to run the company. Peter Gundy is a rare earth expert. He was the founding director of Neo Performance Materials, probably the only company in the Western world that really sees rare earth separation, metallization, and magnet making. So a very big industrial rare earth company. Nomi Prinz is an American banker. And Andy Thompson has been my right-hand man for a long time. So that's the core technical team in Melbourne and in Perth, Australia. But then, of course, we have a very large team in Brazil. And so I'll mention some other people as we go through. Now, this is not our entire share history, but after a very fast growth in the early days, what really happened, and the company going from 1 cent to 30 cents Australian, so 30 times, what really happened, I think, was that China realized that the rare earth prices were high and they were potentially in danger of losing the industry that they have so carefully created. And so because China controlled the rare earth prices, they forced the price down. And so our price went from 30 cents down to 6 cents Australian. And that's where you can see us here. In early 2025, we're down in March, April. The company's now worth 5 to 6 cents a share. And times were tough. And as part of the trade wars between the US and China, China suddenly banned, so in mid-April last year, China banned the rare earth exports to the US, and immediately our share price jumped quite aggressively. And you can see through that as people are starting to understand what that means. And the US and China are trying to understand a deal. Eventually, the US funded the rare earth business in the world is dominated by China. China mine about 60% of all the rare earths on the planet that are mined, and they process about 95%. So this is really a Chinese monopoly at the moment. And the US, under Donald Trump and his policies, are attempting to break that monopoly. And that's what's exciting about this company, other than the geology. I mean, we've got into the rare earth space at exactly the right time. So you can see here the US government stepped in to fund their own project. So MP Materials is a mine called, MP stands for Mountain Pass, and that's a mine on the road between Los Angeles and Las Vegas in the US. And so that effectively set a floor price that makes the Chinese price and their ability to suppress the rare earth price less important. And you can see we had a good run for a while here. We had some small scale environmental hiccups in Brazil, which led to these two downturns. But importantly, we got a very important approval from a local government here, and that set us on a good run. Of course, China relaxed their ban to the US, so that knocked us back down. But recently we got our environmental approval. So we now have a full environmental approval to progress the project and build the mine. So it's been a very exciting time. And again, you can see we're on a very strong upward trend at the moment. So I think it's not too late for shareholders to get in. I believe that the West, the US and Europe in particular are looking hard at rare earth projects because we all know that we need to break this Chinese monopoly. So I'd like to step back a little bit, Peter, and just talk a bit about what are the rare earths and why are they so important? Because this is a really crucial thing. So for your listeners, they might know that the rare earths really are just normal elements. So here are some of the elements that all your listeners would know: copper, zinc, aluminium, gold, one of our favorites, so they're the common elements. And at the bottom of the periodic table, we have this whole list here. This whole list, these are the rare earths, plus yttrium and scandium. So the rare earths are not one element. So gold is one element, but the rare earths are a collective and they always occur together. So you never just get one rare earth on its own. You never just get lanthanum on its own. You get it with all the others. And so that's what's a bit different. And people say, oh, the rare earths are not that rare. And sometimes that's not a terrible thing to say. That's sort of right. And if you look at the rare earths collectively, all the rare earths put together are about as common as nickel. Okay? So everyone knows what nickel is, and there's a reasonable amount of nickel around the planet, and you don't need to worry about us running out of nickel. But the important thing is we don't use the rare earths collectively, we use them individually. And so while all the rare earths are reasonably common, we don't use them collectively, we just use a few of them. And those ones are in red: praseodymium, neodymium, samarium, terbium and dysprosium. Why are they important? They're important because, sorry, my dog has just entered the room, out. The rare earths are important because they are very, very magnetic. Now, all the magnets that everyone played with as children, I played with as children, the little horseshoe magnets, they are iron magnets. So iron magnets. And here on this graph on the right, ferrite is the iron magnet. So, and all magnets have a strength, and the iron magnets have a strength of about 3.5, whereas the rare earth magnets are more than 10 times stronger. So for applications where you need a very strong magnetic force, such as in electric motors, high-end electric motors, for very powerful applications, the blades of a turbine, the generation of electricity, the electric engine of a Porsche or a Ferrari, the very best, the Dyson hairdryers, they all have rare earth magnets. And the reason is because for the same weight in the motor, you get much, much more magnetic power, which allows you to generate more power from your engine. So the rare earth story is really about electrification of the planet, moving away from, fossil fuels and towards electricity to power motor vehicles, etc. And the rare earths are very, very important for that. And then the other thing is, and people might not know, your listeners might not know this, but iron magnets stop working when they get too hot. And so once you raise them above, and they're called permanent magnets, but once you raise them above a certain temperature, they stop working and they never magnetic again. You've destroyed the magnetism. The same thing happens with rare earth magnets. However, their temperatures are much, much higher. So in an engine that has a high temperature that would destroy iron magnets, you can still use rare earth magnets. Now, samarium cobalt magnets are a great example. That's these ones here. That's a great example of, they're a very high temperature magnet. So I think they have a temperature in excess of 300 degrees Celsius, and no motors get that hot. So, so the rare earths are important because super magnetic and work at a much higher temperature and very efficiently. So that's why we need them as we continue to electrify and move towards a cleaner atmosphere and a greener planet. Sorry. Oops, I've left all my, I just need to erase these from the screen. I think I can do that. 1 second. So the Caldeira Project is in Brazil, and I'll show you a map in a moment, but the Caldeira Project is really a volcano. It's a very young volcano. It's only about 70 million years old. And I know that sounds a lot, but geologically that's very, very young. Most of the gold deposits that I've worked on in my life are over 2.5 billion years old. So 70 million years old seems like yesterday to me. And it was a very big volcano, about 30 kilometers across, so a massive volcano. And it had a lot of eruptions. But then it went dormant some time ago. And it has a very particular chemistry called a cyanide. And the thing about a cyanide is really that, sorry. I'm just trying to change my pen here. The thing about a cyanide that's important is that, it won't change. I can't draw. It has no quartz. It's like a granite, or a very dark mafic rock, but it has no quartz. It has silica, but no quartz. And so when it weathers, and if you go to most of the beautiful Australian beaches that are very famous, they have beautiful white sand because there are granites there. And the granites have quartz in them as they weather from rain and wind and snow and ice over millions of years. The only thing that survives is the quartz, and you have these beautiful white quartz beaches. However, if there's no quartz in the rock, when it weathers, what tends to happen is it turns to clay. So the top of this intrusive volcanic rock has now all been turned to clay. And so while there are rare earths spread throughout the whole system, we are only proposing to mine the very top skin, that top clay skin that's on the top. And that's really important that listeners understand that. The big rare earth deposits in the world, in Mongolia, in the US, in Australia, are all mining deep down here in the rock. And they're mining what are called hard rock deposits. But we are only going to take off the clay off the top of this, and all of this clay is enriched in rare earth. Now, one, it's at surface, so it's very cheap to mine. Two, it's clay, so it's very soft, so we don't have to drill it. We don't have to blast it with explosives. We can just grab it with an excavator. So very cheap again. And the important part is that the rare earths which were locked inside the minerals of the rock, those minerals have been destroyed, and those rare earths are now out in the clay. And you can get them out by simply washing the clay. So the clay deposits, and China have been mining clay deposits for rare earths for a long time. They're very cheap to operate, and they're very advantageous from an economic point of view. Your costs are low, your grades are high, your recoveries are high. So that's looking in on the volcano from the side. The next map will show you effectively the volcano from the north. So this is what it would have looked like at the time. This is actually a volcano in Alaska, but just to give your listeners some feel, 70 million years later, that's what this looks like now, but you can still see there's a circular structure here, and there is still a rim even. The rim is about 300 meters higher than the floor of the volcano. And in this example, you can see a little volcano inside the big volcano. That's very common. So looking down on a map, what we really see here is the green area is the volcano looking directly down in a map view. And what Meteoric own is all this grey area. Now, the northern end of the volcano, and you can sort of see it in this map here, is the town. And so we deliberately don't want to go and explore in the town. People live there, you know, people don't want to mine. You know, it's quite heavily populated. It's a town of about 250,000 people. So we've tended to concentrate our work outside the township. And here, down in this southern area, so this area here, which is on the map, this area here, very low population density, just a few farms, no real housing. And so that's why we've concentrated down here. On this map, what you can see is all of these tiny yellow dots are exploration drill holes, and the red dots are also drill holes, but diamond drill holes that go a bit deeper and are just a different method of drilling. So that's how much work we've done. We've done about 100,000 meters of drilling in the last 2 years. And from that, we've grown our resource base, which is a really important thing. So when we acquired the project had no resources. And over the last 3 years, we've grown from being no resources to the second largest rare earth deposit on the planet. Only Mount Weld in Australia has more metal inside it. And I think by the time we finish and we drill all these other areas in grey that are not tested yet, you can see how much work we still have ahead of us, all these grey areas. I think this will be the world's biggest deposit. So it's a very exciting thing. You can see this is tons along the bottom and grade along the top. And you can see we've continually grown and grown. And where we sit at the moment, we sit at 1.5 billion tons. But most importantly, we have a very high grade zone of 100 million tons at about 0.5%. And that's where we will start mining. So let me just home in on that. So on the last map, that's really this area here. It's called Capo de Mel, which sort of loosely translates as land of honey. So we like that because it's very geologically, it's the sweet spot. And our early operation will take ore from Capo de Mel, Suburbo, Barra de Bacu, and Figueira. So that's, and there's no towns, there's no roads really. There's roads for us to use, but there's no highways. We're not interrupting anyone's living, so it's a very good area to develop. And then, as I said before, this is a very simple process. We will go through the farmland, we will mine. We'll only mine down about 15 to 20 meters. So it's just taking the top surface off. We'll pick up those clays and we'll take them to the plant. I'll show you a mock-up of the plant later. And effectively what happens is we wash the clay in water with a bit of ammonium sulfate. And that releases the rare earth. And then we effectively remove the impurities, but the impurities are largely iron, aluminium, a little bit of magnesium. We have very low uranium, very low thorium. We add some carbonate, and then we make a mixed rare earth carbonate, and that will be the product that we produce. Ultimately, then we clean up those clays, we wash them again, and then eventually we will put them back in the hole. So this is a mine that won't even leave a hole in the ground. Now, I've never done that before. Now, obviously that costs a little bit more, but you know, no one in Brazil wants to hear about, so we won't have tailings dams, we won't have waste dumps. Everything will go back in the ground. All that we've done is take the rare earths out. So that's a very exciting thing. We've just built our first pilot plant, and that was just finished in December. So we're processing some ore right now. It's small scale, but we're testing it and growing that. And we're doing that because the people who want to buy our product need samples of it. So they want to take it away and they want to test it in their laboratories and make sure it works, etc. So, and then, as I said before, this is our first opportunity. And the mine that we're proposing and working our way through now, which will treat, it's a big mine, 6 million tonnes per year.
Mm-hmm.
It will be here in the south at Capo de Mel, and we'll take ore from these. But we also know we've already drilled out several licenses up in the north, and we know that we could build another processing plant just as big up here. And these mines will run for 50, 60 years. This is a long-term project. I'll be dead, sadly, before these mines finish. And so, you know, that's a very exciting thing for me to have been involved in the discovery of such an important project. This is what it'll look like in Capo de Mel with the mine immediately. So we'll pick up clay from here. We'll drive it about 150 meters to put it in this processing facility. And when we finish, we'll put all the clay and fill this hole in, and you will never know we were there. So this project, when we talk about mining projects, we really talk about the size of the project, the grade of the project, and the recovery of the project, the metallurgical recovery. Mm-hmm. And I'm very pleased to tell you that in the clay rare earth space, this is the biggest project, it is the highest grade project, and it has the best recovery. And for me, that's the holy trinity of mining. That's why this was always going to be a mine. And we're in this final stages now of finishing our studies and our design work and starting to move towards production.
Fascinating.
That's
fascinating.
my story, Peter.
Thank you very much. And so it was amazing. And so am I right that this is what Rick Rule calls a Tier 1 project?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, the lowest cash cost quartile worldwide and the highest return on capital employed.
Yes.
Something like that. Okay, that's something we like. And could you please expand a little bit more on the management team? You mentioned that you are a geologist, so you will need other people with other expertise, which is normal. Who else would you mention or in the board?
Sure. So we've recruited some great people, and probably apart from Stuart Gale, who's the managing director and a finance expert, because to build this plant will cost us, $450 million US. Mm-hmm. So that's Stuart's job to find that money. So he's working hard on that. And how we do that between debt and equity or government involvement. We've had promise of some money from the US government through Exim Bank. We've had promise of Australian money through the Export Credit Finance Company. So there are governments who want to be involved as well. Then there'd be equity and debt, but that's really Stuart's thing. I think the most important thing is that our metallurgist. So the metallurgist is the person who specializes in getting the ore, in this case the rare earths, off the clay, but in other mines he might be specializing in getting the gold out of the quartz or the copper out of the chalcopyrite. So the metallurgist is responsible for the recovery of the metal. And the guy that we have there, his name is Tony Hadley, and he was the chief geologist at Lynas, which is the world's biggest rare earth producer outside of China. So he's built plants like this, he's built separation facilities, and he's fantastic. So Tony has been amazing, and he has designed the plant, designed the process flow sheet, and he's done an amazing job. And we were so lucky to recruit him very early. Another guy that's worth mentioning is Nick Bennett. Nick Bennett is the guy who's really responsible for managing the feasibility studies and designing the plant and not the part of the plant that recovers the metal, but the broader design of a plant, and how do you make it efficient, and how do you make sure it's stable with the foundations, and how do you make sure you're not getting in each other's way as you operate. So Nick built some very, very large copper mines in the Zambian copper belt. So he's a very well-known guy who's been out building mines in very tough conditions in Africa. Very experienced guy. We've got Stuart, who is the MD. Andy Thompson, who's our chief financial guy. So I've worked with Andy for 30 years. We were together in West Africa. We were together at a gold mine there. We were together again in Tanzania and in Botswana. So he's another financial guru. He really manages the day-to-day cost structures and how we spend our money. At the end of the last quarter, we had a bit over $30 million in the bank, with some promissory money coming from government soon. So Andy manages that. We've got Marcelo Carvalho, who's our Brazilian director. Now, Marcelo, like me, is a geologist, but he's really grown into being our guy in Brazil who liaises with the government, and he's done an amazing job. So there's 3 levels of government in Brazil: federal, state, and local. And they're all involved in this project. So from the federal perspective, they control the mining licenses and our right to explore and develop. In the state, they cover the environmental processes that we must go through. So the very long-term environmental studies that we've done, and we've just been approved to start, the next phase of work, that's all managed by the state. And it's the state of Minas Gerais. Now, for your users who don't speak Portuguese, Minas means mines, and Gerais means general. So it's the state of general mining. So it's been a mining state ever since Portuguese colonisation, so 400 years. In Australia, you would look at Western Australia as the big mining state. Well, in Brazil, it's really Minas. And so they're very proactive in helping us. They're helping us cut red tape from an approvals point of view, and not to say we're short-circuiting, but just that we get the help that we need to get the approvals in a timely fashion, and that bureaucracy doesn't just unnecessarily delay us. Yeah. So we've been very rigorous about our studies. We're not after shortcuts here. We do our work very thoroughly, but then they help. They help by assessing what we do very quickly. Mm-hmm. So Minas have been great. And then the local government have also been important. They provide access to roads. Some of the environmental issues that we've had have been local government, and they've been fantastic again at helping us to secure the approvals that we need. Ultimately, the workforce that we take will be largely local. And certainly almost 100% Brazilian. So we're excited about that. And this is, like a lot of Brazil, it's not a terribly poor area, but there are not many jobs for young peoples in this area. So I think both state and federal governments are excited about job creation in this area. And because for every job at the mine, you create 3 others outside the mine, road maintenance, water supplies, environmental works, cleanup, et cetera, or the supplies coming in, the shipments of stuff going out, the laundry of, so there's an enormous service industry that works around the mines themselves. So we've had a great relationship, and Marcelo has really managed those relationships at a government area. And then myself, I was involved in the early drilling and the discovery and getting us up and running there with Peter Sheehan, who's another Australian, who's my right-hand exploration guy. we did the original resource work and collated all those numbers from drilling and reviewed the historic information. So it's been a great team effort. We've grown very fast, Peter, which I'm sure you know is not always easy, but it's been very successful.
Yeah, great. And any help is welcome. Okay, nice. And when do you plan to operate the mine? So when do you plan to start with mining?
We're in the
really?
final phase of our feasibility studies now.
Yes.
So we're finishing the definitive feasibility study right now.
Okay.
And that's the document that will go to the governments and the banks so that they loan us the money to build the plan. So I'd say we're probably 3 months away from finalising that, 3 to 4 months.
Okay.
And then that financing. And so as soon as the final studies are done, we will apply for a license to start construction.
Yes.
So to build this plant will take about 1 year. So that won't start till probably later this year. And then it would finish sometime in 2027. And then effectively you're in production straight away. The production will grow over time. So the first year will be about half of the annual production rate. And then the second year will be about 80%. And then by early in the third year, we'll be up to 100% of our annualized production rate. And at that stage, we would become around 15% of the world's supply of basic unseparated rare earth oxides.
Yes. And there is a need for that. And do you plan to complete phase 1 and then you start with phase 2? Or
I think
phase 2 is...
I think because we're still a small team, I think and we have to get this right. We have to get phase 1 right.
Yes.
We have to learn and we have to get it right. So I think although we have started to turn our mind to phase 2 from an exploration point of view, we haven't really started to worry about it from a mining or construction point of view. So I think there's still some exploration to be done as we discover new opportunities. But I think really we need to get into production here before we catch another tiger by the tail.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, thank you. And could you please shortly summarize what you done in 2025? And then you mentioned already partly 2026. What are the plans for the next 1 year? Just summarize.
Sure. So 2025 was really, at the start of the year, was the finalization of the exploration and the resources. And then we started the environmental surveys, because environmental surveys for such a big project that will run for many years, they have to run for at least 1 year. So they have to see dry season, they have to see the wet season, they have to see the hot weather, they have to look at the dust, they have to assess all the trees in the area and all the flora and fauna and where do the people live. So that study took well over a year to do the background study. And that's called the baseline study. So that took up a lot of our time in 2025, was really about getting the permits, getting the environmental studies done, and finalising now there's still a lot more exploration, but to be honest, we've got enough now for more than 20 years of mining. So that's we don't need to rush back and explore more for a little while. 2026 will be really about finalising the design and the plan for the build and then commencing construction. So we need to get another permit from the government called the license to construct. So when the feasibility study is done, we submit that to the government, the definitive feasibility study, and we say, this is what we're going to build. Exactly. Every pipe, every screw, every nut, this is what we're going to build. And they approve that, and then we're allowed to start construction. So that should all happen in 2026. And by the end of 2026, we should be well into construction. And then depending on how that goes, and you never know exactly, but we would hope to be producing late in 2027.
Very exciting times then. Okay,
it is very exciting. I don't think anyone in the rare earth world will beat us into production. I think we'll be the next rare earth mine on the planet.
Yeah, great,
There
great.
might be some tiny ones in China and Indonesia, but in terms of really big mines in the West, this is the one.
Mhm. And thank you. And until all these plans come to fruition, you mentioned that you have about 30 million in the safe. Do you still need to raise some cash to achieve that, or?
We will, but we're looking at, we do know that, there are opportunities to do that without going necessarily back to the equity markets. So we certainly have downstream partners looking at the company to secure their offtake. So they might make a prepayment for offtake, or they might come in and buy some of the company to become a partner with us to secure offtake. So there may be another capital raise at some stage. You can never say never. But at the moment we're exploring other avenues to traditional equity, markets. And of course there's government involvement. We've seen the US government put a lot of money into several projects. We've been in talks with the US government for some time. We're talking to the European, various governments in the Europe area. And as you would know, France have a rare earth separation facility. Italy have shown some interest. Some of the Gulf states, Saudi and Qatar, have shown interest. So I think this is such a big project that we've got plenty of interest, and really that's Stuart's job to work out what's the best for us as a company and also for our shareholders. And of course, we're the management team of the company are substantial shareholders. So I myself, I'm a large shareholder, and I've never sold a share, I'm proud to say. So I did sell a few a year ago because I had a tax bill, but other than that, I've never sold a share. And so we're very aligned. Our management group is very aligned with shareholders because we too are shareholders.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. And it's good to hear that such a large and excellent quality project has many options. That's always
It does.
okay.
And that's the beauty of this project.
Yeah.
It's a world-class project.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Just a few more questions if we still have some time.
Sure.
I think you mentioned many things, but what could go wrong? I mean, there's still some risk. Maybe permitting issues could be something that
I
keeps
think
you at night.
I don't think permitting is probably a big risk for us anymore. I think the rare earth pricing, while China still control the price, until we've got a strategic partner who commits to a price, we're vulnerable to pricing risk. We've seen that again and again in the minerals industry where, during boom times, projects get built, and when the the gold projects are being built everywhere at the moment with the gold price where it is, because the gold price is stratospheric. But will those mines still operate when the gold price is $400? So there's always commodity risk. There's no doubt about that. I suppose in some ways because the project's so big, there's the risk of takeover, that we lose control of the project, and that's something that can happen. But that's not necessarily a bad thing for shareholders either. We don't see large scale risk outside commodity risk. But of course, there's a lot of things going on in the world at the moment, and with the US taking a fairly strong stance, in regards to critical minerals and acquisition of critical minerals. I suppose there's risk around how Brazil reacts to the US, and how does Europe, and so that geopolitical stuff can be quite complex, and well above my pay grade, Peter.
I agree with you. You never know what the sheriff is thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. And would you like to add anything else? what I
Oh no,
forgot to
Peter,
ask.
I would simply say I'll share my contact details with you.
Also, yeah.
People are very welcome to reach out to me, via email. Please don't expect a response immediately, but I always answer, interested shareholders' queries where I can. Or if I get too much, we'll come on and we'll do another video and I'll answer their questions in a public forum so everyone can share that. I've been an explorer for 35 years. This is the best project I've ever seen. And I can't wait to deliver it into production. It's an amazing project. It will be a mine long after I've gone, but it's a legacy thing, for me. And I couldn't be prouder of what my team has done and achieved over the last few years. But we've got still a lot to do. What I would say to you is come and join us. This is an adventure. Your shareholder, your viewers should get on the register, become shareholders, put them in a drawer and give me a year or two, because this will be a very big and very profitable mine for a very long time.
I have the confidence that you and the team can do it. Yeah.
Thank you, mate.
Okay, thank you. And I will put the links in the video description below so folks can find it. Okay, I think our time is up. So
thank you very much. I hope that didn't go too long.
Thank you very much for taking the time to meet with us and answer my questions.
Peter, it's my pleasure. If I get into your part of the world, I'll look you up.
Thank you very much. And I hope
we'll have a beer together
in the summer also in Boca Raton, probably.
Sure. Of course. Perfect.
Okay.
I'll be there.
Thank you very much and goodbye to everyone.
Thank you, Peter.